So, we're ready for a little plying adventure. Plying is taking the two singles or more that you have spun and making them a single yarn together. To do that, we're going to twist our spindles in the opposite direction what you spun your singles in. Right now, I'm winding off some singles onto my hand from what I spun up a little bit earlier this afternoon. I'm going to ply these first before I go on to plying on something else. So I hope everybody has a spindle and perhaps two small balls of yarn or some singles that you can wind off on your hand like I've just done so that you can do this. Now I'm going to ask you to watch what I'm doing. Tying a knot, the two ends, there it is, knot in the two ends of the fiber I just wound off my spindle. So I'm putting the hook through that tied yarn, not through the knot, but through these two pieces of yarn. And I'm going to turn my spindle in a counterclockwise direction. If you look here, straight ahead at the camera, counterclockwise is this way, not clockwise. Okay? Clockwise is this way, counterclockwise is to the left. Okay, I'm going to gently turn my spindle in that counterclockwise direction. And you can see that it's twisted my yarns together. Now it hasn't necessarily twisted them perfectly and evenly, but they're twisted together. So I can keep doing this as long as I have two ends of yarn, two strings of yarn to work with. Okay, so when I feel like I've done enough, I'm going to wind off just like we did earlier today. And I'm going to wrap on in a counterclockwise direction. So the way you spin is the way you wind on. If you spin clockwise, you wind on clockwise. You spin counterclockwise to ply, wind on counterclockwise. Because the reason you do that is that everything is then going in the same direction. I'm going to keep doing this some more. You notice that I hold it and then I release it. I hold it and then I release it. Hold it and release it. Okay, and now I'm going to wind on again. Whoops, I have to remember I'm winding on the other way now. Again, my yarn is not even, but it's a good start. It also wasn't spun evenly, but that's a good start too. So now I'm about to finish off. Okay, there it is. There's my plied yarn. Now it's going to be a little kinky. You can straighten those kinks out just by running your hand up and down. And that'll untwist it a little bit. You can twist it again if you think it needs, oops, wrong way. If it needs more twist, you can twist it again. Okay, and it'll all even out in the wash. All right, I'm going to take this off, and literally it will even out on the wash. When my yarn is all plied, I usually take it upstairs to the bathroom sink and wash it, hand wash it in the bathroom sink using shampoo, because after all, it was somebody's hair. And let it soak in the water for a little bit and then rinse it clear. Sometimes the dyes will come out. Rinse it clear in cold water, and then I whack it against the tub, and I'll explain that later. Okay. All right, so are you ready to start this? Okay, I'm going to take a new spindle. I'm going to use a Lazy Kate that Jonathan made for me. If you have your two balls of yarn, I recommend putting them in a cup or a mug, one in each, or a soup bowl, or a little mixing bowl, or something that will keep them from jumping around all over your room.
Or if you even have one of those little plastic crate or boxes that has the holes in the sides of it, you can just put through one of the holes in the sides.
Right, put them through on the holes in the side. You have to be careful because sometimes they won't go the way you want them to, but that's okay. All right, I'm taking my two ends of new yarn in my favorite colors, see? Okay, gonna tie the ends of those. So would you take your two ends and tie them together? Now you have two ends with one knot at the end where their two ends run out of yarn. Is that right? Okay, so open that up so that you can see like this. Here's the knot down here, and here's this open space. I'm going to put the hook of my spindle in that open space and let it hang on the knot. So far, so good?
Hmm.
Great. Okay.
And if
Now,
anyone has a question in the meantime too, whatnot, please feel free to put it in the chat.
yeah, I can't see the screen. Jonathan is being successful to be demoted. So
Sheila, would you like for me to unmute them or to leave them muted at this point?
if people have questions, let them speak.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody. But please make sure if you have a lot of background noise, whatnot, that you mute yourself.
No, I thought you wanted to see them.
No, I'll hear them. Okay. So now I'm holding my two singles tied in a knot up about maybe 6 inches. Okay. Now, remember when we learned to spin earlier today? You did this to flick your hands to make the spindle go. You're going to turn it the other way now. You're going to push your fingers away from your hand. That might be a little awkward, so why don't you, holding your yarn in place, spin your spindle by pushing your fingers forward from your hand. You should have a nice plied yarn there by doing that. Okay, does that work for you? Okay, so you can hold your spindle under the point like this to get it going in motion. But if you do this, any gesture that you make with your wrist in turning will make it jump around. It's liable to jump around less if you do this. And as we get going, I'll show you another way to do it, which will make it jump around even less than this. Okay? So why don't you do this until you have about 12 or 14 inches of plied yarn with your spindle suspended. You do that? About 10 to 12 or 14 inches, whatever. Okay. Or if you're working with tiny skeins, use less. Don't go so far. Tell me when you're ready. What we're going to do is wind onto the spindle. You can wind on, if you can watch what I'm doing now, I'm going through the notch in my spindle, and then under my spindle, and then I'll turn it. That's one of the ways we did winding on this morning. If you don't want to do that way, you don't have to. You can wind your plied yarn any old way around your hand. You see what I did? Do it again. I'm still pinching the end where the plying ends. Wind around my fingers till I can get my thumb and forefinger onto the knot and take it off the hook. Hold it under the whorl, wrap it around a couple times so that when I take my finger away, it will stay in place. And I'm still holding onto the pinched end. Is everybody doing that? Choose the wind on you want to use. You can either keep it in the hook, bring the yarn under the notch, under the whorl, and wind on in a counterclockwise direction. That means it's turning to the left as you look at the top of your spindle. So far, so good? Okay, if you have a notch, bring it up through the notch in the hook. Now stretch out your hands so you have about 6 inches. You have 6 inches of fiber hanging down? Okay, more or less, okay. Spin your spindle by pushing your fingers away from your hand against the shaft. Far so good? Okay. Now if you have lots of spin, draft that yarn out from the top. See what I'm doing? And let it go. Okay? Right, now maybe you have enough that you want to wind on. So undo from the hook and notch if you have one, and wind on. Go back through the notch in the hook and you're ready to do some more. Now, can I ask you to slide your yarn holding fingers up a little bit and let some of the yarn slide through, maybe 3 inches worth, and tell me what you notice. You should be noticing that your yarn is continuing to ply. Is that right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So that means you've got yarn, the same kind of yarn memory that Jonathan was talking about when he was talking about spinning on the charka. This twist down here where it's more twisted will bring some twist up. We still need more twist, so let's spin the spindle one more time. Pinch off and let go. Pinch off, reverse draft really, and let go. Okay, is your spindle still spinning or has it stopped? If it stopped, make sure it doesn't unspin. Okay, and wind on again. Now, as you're winding it on, look and see if it's evenly twisted. There might be some places that are really tight because all of a sudden it went really fast. Or there might be some places that are really loose because you took too much out at one time. It didn't get as twisted as the rest of it did. I'm going to ask Jonathan to show that here. You see that here it's not so twisted, but here it's more twisted.
There might be a, this might be a really bad example. Welcome to Lindsay Messed Up. So
Yeah, you have some nice thick yarn there, girl. Yep, that's not all of your yarn, right? You've got more.
Yep, yeah, got more. But there,
Okay.
You can't see the twist on that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Where it's the,
All right, now another way to make your spindle spin, which is really easier, is to do a thigh roll. If you took the spinning demo this morning, you saw me talk about a thigh roll where I start with my hand at my right hand on my right leg, the outside of my right leg, at the knee, and I moved my hand back to my hip. That was to spin in a clockwise direction. Now you're going to start close to your hip and roll your hand towards your knee. Can you do just the hand part? Put your hand on your thigh and slide your hand along your leg to your knee. Okay, that was pretty easy. Do it one more time. You don't have to press, you just have to slide. Put your hand on your thigh and slide towards your knee. Okay, so now I want you to put your spindle between your hand and your thigh. Put the shaft there. Slowly slide towards your knee. Watch what happens to your spindle. It's spinning. Is that doing it for you? Is it spinning?
Yeah, I like that. I like that way of doing that.
Yeah, that's really good. Now take a look at what you've plied. I think you might find it's a little bit tighter and a little bit more even. Okay? That's because your spindle is spinning faster than when you did it with your hands. And that's okay. You can do it still with your hands, or you can do it by sliding along your thigh. I like the sliding on the thigh because that's pretty fast. Okay. Watch me do it. Jonathan, can you put the camera on my legs so that they can see? Okay, here we go. Okay. Okay. Now I pick it up and I wind on, still in the opposite direction from what I did when I plied my, when I spun my.
Where the heck were there?
Sorry. Yeah. All right, let's do that together one more time. Start with about 6 inches of yarn space above your spindle. Okay. And put the shaft of your spindle against your leg on your thigh. Put your hand over the shaft and slide toward your knee. Ready? Go. Okay. Now, if you've got your bowls on the floor, you might find that they start to get a little twisty. So I like to have them fairly well separated so that they don't get entangled in one another. Right? And if you are using the craft box bags or boxes, as Lindsay suggested, that have the slots or dots in them, and you have a dowel across it, you can just put the ball of yarn in there and pull it through the hole or the big space in the handle up above, if that's what you're using. I had a big red one here, which I now don't see, but I'm using my Lazy Kate, which I like a lot. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to roll along the side of your leg one more time Remember to take your rolling hand and put it where your other hand is now and move your other hand back. So you're bringing some more yarn up to feed that twist, okay? We're going to slide. Ready, slide. And bring your hand up to where your other hand was. Bring some more yarn to feed the twist. Let go of your lower hand. Slide to get more yarn to feed the twist. Keep doing that until it doesn't turn anymore or you've reached the floor, whichever comes first. Okay, anybody having problems? Anyone having plying problems? I don't know that I can fix other problems, but I could maybe help you with your plying problem.
I was gonna say that leg thing makes it so much easier, like more even for me.
No
I will say
kidding.
that. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's not a, oh my gosh, how do I hold this? How do I make this move? And especially if you've just spent a few days before this making singles where you're doing everything the other way. It's a real mind jolt to now go the other way, where it's very easy with your hands. Just slide toward your knee or toward your hip. Okay, who have we got here? Hillary, how's it going for you? Hillary is silent.
It's going okay.
All right. Are you finding it's too tight or too loose?
I'm finding that it's not spinning very long, but
Okay, did you do a thigh roll?
yes.
Okay, then move it a little faster.
Okay.
Now, the downside of a faster thigh roll is that you have to keep up with it.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. But if you feed it less yarn ply when it's going slow, you'll be okay.
Okay.
Faster is more yarn, slower is less yarn.
Okay.
Lindsay, how are you doing?
Good.
And who else do we have here? Karen? Are you and Isabella here?
We are.
Okay, how's it going?
I did a little bit with commercial yarn, so that was okay.
Okay.
I don't know, do you want to do some flying?
Feel that it,
Try with us.
did you feel that it plied okay? Sometimes
Yeah, the commercial stuff just twisted up like a dream.
Oh,
Because
well,
it was 100%
buy more
wool.
commercial stuff.
Yeah.
What was that?
I said, in that case, buy more commercial stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just some camel merino yarn that I had. Only had a little. I just finished making one of these neck collars out of.
Nice. Yeah.
So I was just leaving it.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it came out. What do you think?
That looks
Not bad.
good.
Oh, up a little bit.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. You're hired.
Our hand twisted stuff is all so thick already. I mean, and we may end up making cord or something.
Okay,
You want to try it? It's really easy to ply.
If you spin your hand spun yarn a little finer, it'll end up like that when it's plied. So
Yeah.
I would say keep on doing whatever is working for you.
We're gonna give it a go. I got distracted.
Either flick with your fingers away from your hand. You can do that pretty fast too once you get the hang of it. Or roll along the side of your leg. I have about 6 to 8 inches between the hook of your spindle and your foot, which is feeding the twist. Okay? Pinch with the hand that moved the spindle. Bring out about 6 inches and let it go. Okay? Just keep doing that.
Here, let's put our mic.
Is that going okay now for everyone? I'm sorry to ask the question, but I just can't see you all.
Here, do you want me to put it in gallery view real quick?
If you want, but I think that'll still make people too small to see.
Is that a little easier for you? Let's see, Hillary. Ooh, that's pretty. Like a blue and a green.
Now,
I had a little tiny lollipop of merino, the sister merino to this BFL. So
nice.
There you go. I think that was from your Camp Yarnsie from the
glamping
pack that we did in the November.
Here, how are you doing?
Hey, Cheryl.
How are you doing? Okay.
Yes, the roll along the thigh is really interesting. I've not come across it before, but it's quite fast. So it's
It's very fast. And I just would say, if it's a little too fast for you to keep up with right now, do it slower. You can also spin your singles with a thigh roll. You'll be rolling from knee to hip instead. Again, it's a really fast spin, so you need to keep up with it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask Jonathan to focus the camera on my hands one more time. So you can see that it's not twisted in here. Not twisted in here. I'm going to roll it along my leg. It'll twist. Do you see what happens really fast? Now I'm feeding the twist. Watch my hands, please. Feeding the twist. Feeding the twist. Right? And I find sometimes, and hang on, let me roll this on, wind this on. Making the most fabulous purple and hot pink dyed yarn. I'm sure it's going to glow in the dark. I do find sometimes that if I just run my fingers up the plying yarn, up the plied yarn, that will keep the twist moving. I don't like to recommend that you fondle your yarn as it's being plied, but I find that if it's not working, I just run my fingers up it and it does it. Okay? So for winding onto your spindle, I would do the same thing that you do when winding on making your singles. Fill it up and start to make a nice little lump. Then work your way down a little, then work your way back up, and keep going up and down in layers so that you're building evenly throughout. Don't try to go down here, because especially if you're doing a thigh roll, you'll unroll the yarn. It'll come right off the spindle. So if you're using a thigh roll, I would say go down about to here. Okay? Proportionately on the length of shaft that you have on your own spindle. Okay? Now, what kind of a spindle to use for plying? Well, I did my singles on medium-sized diameter spindles. And so now I'm having to think, well, I'm putting two bits of yarn together where I only had one before. So I've chosen a spindle with a bigger diameter. I probably did these on either 2 or 2.5 inch diameter spindles. So now I'm choosing a 3-inch diameter spindle in the hopes that I'll get most of it on one spindle. Wow, Sherry, you're doing really well. Look at that. How's it going?
I'm doing all right.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
No, you're. Whenever one pops into my head, you seem to answer it just as I'm thinking of it. So you're doing fine.
Well, that's luck.
With answering what I'm thinking about.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
So I'm just going to say.
I'm working with a merino.
Okay. If you run out of yarn, you have no more yarn to ply, go back and look at what you've done and see, is it fairly even? Is it really tight and then really loose? And think about how you're moving your hands, how you're doing it, and how you're twisting your spindle. If your spindle has a notch, I recommend going through the notch. Makes life much easier for me anyway. If your spindle doesn't have a notch, maybe you have something that you can lean the yarn against so that it will stay in the hook. Okay. And remember, you want to just keep feeding the twist with your hands. It's like the reverse of drafting. Remember, when you're drafting, you're pulling away from your fiber source. Here, you're pushing toward your spindle. Okay, so again, I'm just going to ask Jonathan to focus on my hands. Question?
I have an inquiry. I just thought of. Yeah. What? When you're plying, can you do more than 2 strands at a time?
Of course. Yes. You can do 3 strands. You could do 4, but that'll use up a lot of yarn. So if you have like 4 balls of yarn, you'll end up with only 1 ball of fatter yarn if you do 4 at once. The other thing you can do is cable. In other words, you ply 2 balls of fine yarn, you ply 2 more balls of fine yarn, then you take those 2 plied balls and twist them again in the original direction. So your singles were clockwise, your plying is counterclockwise, your cabling will be clockwise again.
Okay.
So if you follow that, you do your singles clockwise. You do your first ply counterclockwise. Do your second ply clockwise again. And if you were cabling rope, the next one would be counterclockwise. So you go back and forth, back and forth,
Okay.
back and forth. Okay. So you might find
Makes sense.
that a single, you might find that a 2-ply yarn, if it's very lightweight, is too light, and you would like a 3-ply yarn instead. 3-ply yarn is usually a little rounder. 2-ply yarn is often considered a little flat, as there's nothing to sort of poof it out. You can do more plies than that. I confess I have not tried more than 3. 3 has been my limit. But you could, if you wanted to, go back and twist them again in the other direction. So, is everyone still plying? Has anyone stopped plying? Has anyone run out of yarn?
Time flies when you're having
Time
fun.
flies, right. Time flies when you're having fun.
This wouldn't be Camp Yarnsie without a really bad pun, guys.
It has to be Camp Yarnsie if it has a pun. Lindsay, do you still have yarn to ply?
I do. Believe it or not, I still do.
How's it going?
Good. Yeah, with your help, it's gotten a lot more even.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. That's good. Okay.
Is anyone else having some aha moments or ooh ah?
Some oh wow moments.
Or oh geez too. We can have those. Or
How does she do that? Sorry, huh? Just focus on the. Watch the hands; they never leave. Yep.
Does it matter if it's overspun or with ply?
Right now, no. I'll tell you why. If it's really seriously overspun, maybe don't let it get so twisted. If it's only a little overspun here and there, when you wash and whack your yarn, that will undo it. So while you do this, let me just talk about washing and whacking. I take my yarn that I've plied and made into a ball, a skein of yarn, and tie it in 3 or 4 places so that it stays together. I think Lindsay had a very nicely tied picture of a skein niddy noddy. You have that handy, Lindsay?
I can, yes.
Wow, you're playing up a storm there, Karen.
Yes. Can y'all see that?
Yeah, okay. So do you see
Yes.
at the cross piece she has 2 knots there, and it looks like she has 1 at the back as well? So you want to do 3 or 4 little wind arounds with some other yarn, preferably another color so you can see it. And then you can slide it off your niddy noddy or whatever you've made a skein on. Sometimes you just wrap it around your arm. That'll work too. So I take it off, whatever it's on, and I take it upstairs to the bathroom sink in our house, and I wash it in the bathroom sink with a little shampoo, squeeze bottle of shampoo. So I go squeeze, squeeze, not squeeze, squeeze, but just 2 little ones, squeeze, squeeze, small sink. Then I put my yarn in. And sometimes if the dye is not color proof yet, it will bleed a little bit. Don't panic about that. Just let it sit there, poke it up and down a few times. Don't scrub it, just gently fluff it in the water. And then come back a little bit later, rinse it out with cooler water, right? And when no more soap or dye comes out, when the water's clear, squeeze it to get it out. Do not wring it like a towel. Do not wring it like a towel. Just squeeze it gently to get most of the water out. I roll mine in a towel afterwards. And sometimes I step on the rolled towel to get all the water out. Then I take my skein of yarn. I just need to have a skein of yarn in my hand. Hang on 1 second. I'll go get one. All right, Jonathan.
I use one of those little pop-up tubs from like the dollar store that you can fill and put a little bit of eucalyptus or whatnot in it. But sometimes I need a bigger thing than my sink.
Yes, you are.
Untwist this one. Oh, I see it's 2 skeins. That's why I can't. Big whopper of a skein. It's 3 skeins. Holy Moses, I'm wild. Okay. So what I do now is, can you focus on my hands, Jonathan?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have my wet or damp skein in my hands like this, with my hands touching each other, one in one direction, one in the other. Okay, so I hold on to it, I lift it over my head, and I whack it on the side of the bathtub. Okay, now my hands were in this.
What is the purpose of whacking?
Whacking will make your yarn bloom a little bit, and it also may push the twist around, even out the twist a little bit.
Take some water out of it too.
And getting the water out of it too, if you haven't already. Yes. But okay, so
That's rid of some frustration.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great. If you're really mad at somebody, whack the daylights out of your bathtub. Okay, but this is the important thing. My hands from that first whack, now I move my hands like this and whack again. And then move my hands again and whack again. So I do usually, for a skein that's about that size, that long, I do 20 whacks. Like that old song, Lizzie Borden took an axe.
Oh my God.
So Sheila Bosworth took her yarn and gave the bathtub 40 whacks, okay? So,
welcome to Halloween in February.
So anyway, that's that. Then I hang it to dry. I usually hang it on a regular plastic hanger with the places that are tied hanging on the shoulders of the hanger. You can hang it over the shower spout. That's a nice long distance. Your yarn will be, if your yarn is over twisted and comes off really frizzy after you take it off the spindle from plying it, this will also release the tension, the yarn, and in you, making a happy day for everybody.
If you use the PVC, like Nitty Naughty or whatever, or you use the weight, like like you're saying, I use the like the hanger on the bottom of it to hang it down, to pull it down a little bit.
Yeah. Either I am not twisting it enough, or I don't know what, but I haven't had to do that in a while. So, but that's a very good idea. Use the plastic hanger. Please do not use a metal hanger. Use the plastic hanger in the dip of the yarn. So if your yarn is hanging from the shower, this is where the hanger would be. Okay, do you see my hanger right there? Okay. Or you could put it on a hanger with the knotted spots. If you did 4 ties, you could put it on the hanger like this. Here we go. Now I'm a hanger. Put it like that, so the ties are on the shoulder of the hanger. And you can make one end a little bit lower than the other, because you don't want it to drip onto itself. If you're hanging this on the back of the bathroom door, which is what I do, it's a good idea to have really dried it out so that it doesn't make a puddle on the floor. Okay, so that's the end of my whacking my yarn story. Does that help any?
Yes.
Okay. There may be other ways for you to finish yarn. I'm sure there are other ways for you to finish yarn. That's the one that works for me. And because it works for me and I like it, I keep doing it. Okay, so has everybody plied all their yarn?
No.
Okay, so it sounds like everybody's on a happy roll. Is that right? Yeah.
I'm doing all right.
Is everybody good?
Everybody's happily plying?
I'm kind of liking this. Kind of funky.
Yeah, it's very contemplative, very zen. So Do your
Yeah.
thigh
Just
roll.
have to remember to twist it the right direction.
Yes, that's the problem. If you haven't been flying on a spindle before, you have to stop and say, which way am I going?
And you want to make
Oftentimes you might be like me, having done maybe a quarter of your yarn, find yourself all of a sudden spinning the other way, and that doesn't work at all. So make sure that you know where you're starting and what you're going to do. So really, as a ballpark, that's all it is to plying. Now, if you've also plied on a wheel, you've been doing the same thing on a wheel, and your feet have been turning the wheel for you instead of you having to roll the spindle to make it turn. Okay? Yeah,
for the hand,
yeah,
for the electric spinners.
yeah.
There may
Or
be
the hand for the
a
electric
couple
spindle.
of us out there.
Yeah, there are a lot of you out there. That's true. Okay? So if you have questions while you're doing this, or if you're not sure what's happening, or if you want to know what else you might do, I think 3-ply yarn is really strong for socks. 2-ply yarn can work for socks too, but I think it needs to be fairly tightly plied. 3-ply yarn is good, very sturdy, because you have 3 different threads in there, 3 different of yarn in there. And it's probably best to do as much plying as you can in one sitting, simply because you get through it faster. Although I don't mind it. I usually ply when I'm in a plying mode. I usually ply every day for about 30 to 40 minutes and get as much as I can done.
So, just asking a basic question. So, when you're setting up the yarn to start again,
Yep.
Is it important to note which direction the yarn was spun in? So that way I know this one's going, for instance,
Yeah.
is
Okay.
this way. So when I put them together, I know they both need to be facing counterclockwise, or one needs to be facing inward towards the other. How is the setup
I
again?
usually do them in parallel. I usually do them if they're on, like on this Lazy Kate that I'm using. Jonathan, can you turn to look at this? On this Lazy Kate that I'm using, the yarn is pulling off from the outside, so I'd say that's parallel. If I were having them go,
Oh, just asking. So the yarn that's coming off of it, they're all twisted. Like when you were spinning it, they're all coming off the same
yes, I'm
way.
sorry, I
That
misunderstood
makes
your
sense?
question.
I
Yes.
didn't say that well. I apologize.
No, you said it perfectly well. I just didn't understand it. So assuming that you did all your single plies, now I'm just going to say 2 things here. Animal fiber clockwise, plant fiber counterclockwise. Your plying direction should be the other way that your singles were spun. If you're using animal fiber, your singles are spun clockwise, plied counterclockwise. If you're doing plant fiber, your singles are spun counterclockwise and your plies are clockwise. Now, what do you do when you have a blend of wool and fiber, like wool and bamboo?
Mm-hmm.
I treat it just like wool. Okay? Because you can't split hairs on doing that. Sorry, that was a bad pun.
That was appreciated.
You did. Okay, good. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Whatever you did to get your singles, do it the other way to get your plied yarn. Now, another aspect of the question that Lindsay asked, if you're sharing your singles with somebody, like suppose we have a little spinning group and we're each going to send each other a ball of the same yarn, okay? Don't be the odd duck who spins her singles the other direction as everybody else. That will not work. Why are you hiding, Lindsay?
Because you know what I do. I was waiting for that to happen. I wasn't going for that question, but
Okay.
yeah, I admit it's hard. It's a hard habit to break that I started.
It is. It's a very hard habit to break. You know, you sort of spin how you spin. But the more you do it, the more you spin one type of thing one way and the other type another way. And so when you're done your singles and you're ready to ply, then you know which way you have to go with those. Okay. But, I'm also going to say to that, there is always an exception to a rule, right? Or as someone else said to me, rules are made to be broken. And if it works for you, it works for you. There are no yarn police. So you can do as you like.
Number one rule, there's no rules.
Yeah. One
And there
number.
might be another ugly duck that's like me out there somewhere, and we might turn into beautiful swans together.
Yeah. There's habit and custom. And the habit and custom is that animal fibers go clockwise, counterclockwise. Plant fibers, that would be cotton, bamboo, I don't know what else, but somebody will.
Hemp, linen.
Hemp and linen should be done counterclockwise for singles, clockwise for plies.
Actual way the fiber twists.
Thank you, Jonathan. Jonathan's not even playing, and he knew the answer. Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan.
Yay! Yay for Jonathan.
Yay for Jonathan. He's the best. Has anyone run out of yarn?
The talent. Getting there.
Has anyone run out of yarn yet?
So.
Almost. Nope. Okay. So we'll meet again next week at this time and see where you are. No.
Good luck.
Yeah, I think if you're going along and you're happy with what you've got, that doesn't mean that it's perfect, but it means that you understand how it works and that you can make it do what I've been asking you to do, how I've been asking you to do it. You can either, again, to move your spindle, you can either put your thumb and fingers on opposite sides of the shaft and push your fingers away from your hand. You could cup it underneath, which is what I did when I started, but then the spindle goes really wacky when you let go of it. If you turn or angle your wrist on the release, it'll just jump all over the place. Or you can do a thigh roll. And I have to say the thigh roll is so easy. You can be fast, you can be slow. You can be fast twisting, you can be slow twisting. Hillary, do you have a question?
Yes. Could you, because the whole notion of clockwise and counterclockwise is, I know what they are, but can you talk about getting used to the right direction?
You mean automatically going in the right way the first time?
Yes.
Sure. 3 years from now, you'll have it down. It won't be 3 years from now, but you do have to stop and think about what you're doing. Are you spinning singles or are you plying? And I'm just trying to think. Clockwise, you have to picture the clock and follow your fingers around through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, which is clockwise. You're turning to the right. The top, it turns to the right to the bottom. Clockwise, you're starting at the top and turning to the, counterclockwise, you're starting at the top and turning to the left. So you're going 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay?
Or diesel.
Yeah, there's
Or you just shame yourself. And if you're not going towards your right, which is your right hand when you're starting with animal fiber, then you're wrong.
That's right.
So you could also go with the shaming approach to that.
Well, you want to have a positive attitude towards playing here.
Yeah. I just discovered that I was going counterclockwise. So it's lined itself out and I'm starting over.
I have a friend.
Hey. Yes, another direction, another name Jonathan reminded me for clockwise and counterclockwise is Diesel and Widdershins. Which one is which, Jonathan?
Diesel, the way the sun goes, the soul, clockwise. Widdershins is the way a witch stirs the pot, counterclockwise. Witch is always stirred against the sun in the northern hemisphere.
Well, there you go.
I don't know if they have witches in Australia or not.
I'm sure they did. They have
There's witches everywhere.
So has this been helpful? Has it made some sense to you? Has it shown you that you can do it?
Yes.
Oh, they
How's
see.
it going, Karen? Did your daughter get a chance to try? Karen, Marco Polo. Take it. Karen may not be able to hear me at the moment. Hillary, how's your daughter doing? Are we rating her as well?
Your work. Show your work.
We're just curious. I mean, you don't have to show us if you don't want to.
Oh, I'm not flying right now.
Oh, that's good.
They,
Oh, it's so pretty.
and then
Look at that.
this.
Yeah,
Nice.
Karen.
Nice.
Thanks.
Hillary, let's see what you have.
Well, I plied this.
Yeah.
The green is merino,
Yeah.
and then this was what I spun in the last hour.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Good.
then I'm starting anew.
Okay. Can you work on getting your plies a little more even?
Yes, I need
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So you can unwind a little and twist some more if it's not to your liking,
Okay.
or you can unwind it if it's too twisty. Unwind it a little bit just by spinning your spindle the other way without doing anything else. Okay.
My hand is getting tired.
Yeah. Time to stop.
And I figured I would let this sit and think about the error of its ways for a while.
Okay.
And
Oh.
when I wind it, I'll give it a chit chat.
Will it have a self-winding and self-correcting yarn? That would be great.
I have a question for you, Sheila. Think of that. I know some people talk about letting their yarn rest
Yeah.
before they ply it or before they soak it in water to set it. What are your
I
thoughts on
usually
that?
let my singles rest on the spindle. And then looking at the amount of plastic Ziploc bags of balls of yarn I have here, I apparently let them rest a long time on the balls too. But I think it's probably good to let them rest for a little bit. I think that you'll get some, while it's sitting on the spindle, it'll sort of wiggle itself around and maybe even out a bit more, so that I think it'll be easier for when you go to ply. Sarah, you had said before in one of our Wednesday night gatherings you were interested to do plying on the spindle. So do you feel that you're having a little better luck than you did before?
Who is that directed towards? Me.
Okay.
Who did
You
direct it?
asking, Sheila?
I remember in one of our Wednesday night spinning sessions, you had said you were interested to be able to spin better on the spindle. And I'm just asking if this is giving you any luck.
Yes, it is. For me, it is anyway.
Okay, good, good.
Oh.
And there's Karen. And Karen, you went like a house of fire there, spinning all your stuff. That was good.
Well, I have to admit that I had some already spun single ply, and
Yeah.
it was spun on this.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I'd done it. I never really realized the point of this. But what it ended up with, and I don't even have anymore, was a ball with a pull in the middle and a pull on the
Yep.
side.
Yes.
So I didn't even need to have two balls. It was pretty
That's
cool.
true. That's true. And you can do that when you're plying on a regular ball of yarn. You just have to be careful that you don't lose the center core, because if there's nothing there to support it, it can collapse on itself.
Mm.
So you do have to be careful. I mean,
Yeah, it unwound really nicely.
well, good. Yay.
Yeah, it's pretty coarse.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what I'll make out of it.
How about a coffee mug?
We've done a few of those. I have to show you. I have to show you what we have.
Oh, well, you'll be busy for a while. Oh,
That's only one bag.
I like what you keep
you
those
guys,
in.
like me, you have a lot of bags of yarn then, of fiber, right? Even more.
I like
Okay,
the
good.
idea of using the zip
These
bags.
tub full
That's
of
smart.
yarn.
I showed her the roll eggs too.
Yeah, roll eggs.
Yeah, but this has been really fun. You're really good at demonstrating. I really appreciate it. And you did it differently than how I'd been shown before, so that was awesome to see a different
Different way to do it.
different way to do it. This could be the recipient of some knitted object.
Too cute.
Oh, I see. We have
Yeah.
some four-legged friends here too.
Yeah.
Ours are cats. And what does your dog
he's got
say?
he already has a cowl.
Oh, look at
Oh,
that.
that's so cute. Such a good model too.
You
I
should have
know.
seen him rolling around on the floor when we came inside because I took everything off except for the cowl, and he was like, trying to get it off.
That's funny.
So,
All right,
how do you
Claire,
get-
did you have any questions or observations for us? I can't hear you. You're muted. Sorry.
Sorry, I've been busy concentrating and
Yeah.
thinking and asking questions and trying to go the right ways. All too much at this. I'm in England, so we're later in the evening. We're about 9 o'clock in the evening here.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
but I've been spinning singles for a little while now, but didn't know what to do with them next. So it's the first time I've actually tried flying anything at all. So I'm really pleased. Thank
Well,
you.
that looks great. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. I think that's
Right.
good. Bravo.
Got a lot done. That's good.
Well, I think you might find it a little easier earlier in the day.
Undoubtedly.
We appreciate you joining us, though.
Thank you.
It's lovely to meet you.
No, leave the dog alone.
Okay, so I think
Stop.
we're done. Just remember, when you've got your spindle full, you can, if you've got more yarn to spin and you can't fit any more on your spindle, break it off and start another spindle of plied yarns. Okay, so that means you might have to get 2 spindles, one for each hand. Okay.
I do think I'm going to need to get one that's just a little bit bigger.
A little bit bigger, yeah. If you're going to
I'm
apply,
glad I didn't start on the Moosey.
That's your Moosey, huh?
I love my Moosey. The
Oh,
Moosey sees a lot of work. Both of these I've gotten from the Bosworth. They're fabulous. They're so well weighted, but yeah.
Thank
so I can
you.
stick more yarn on that. I'm gonna apply.
Okay. Well, I thank Camp Yarnsie for inviting me to do this, and I hope it was helpful to you. It was really helpful to me to get your feedback, to get your questions. You know, why should I do this, or how do I do that, or what do I do now? It's really helpful for me. You know, when you do something a lot, you don't think about it anymore. So it was really good that you guys made me think a little. So thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so
When I get